Season 2, Episode 10 begins right now. Coach Robert Villafranca, Haley Wilson, we thank you for joining us. We are going to talk about basketball coming up. We're going to review some volleyball, the area rounds, and then, of course, continue with some football. We're going to talk last week's scores, playoff pairings, and then, of course, the exciting game, the Frontier Bowl, and then our streaming schedule that's coming up. And some accolades that we'd like to mention. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. We want to thank you. Our sponsors are Texas Revolution Youth Football and Cheer, Martinez and Associates Personal Injury Attorneys, Brooks Model Mortgage Plus, Superior Tax Service, Live from the South Side, Harlandale ISD, Proper Realty with Vanessa G. Medina, and J-Rod Video Production. So all the videos that you get to see that we showcase on our website or on our social media, that professional photography is done by J-Rod Video Production. So we thank him for that. On the Vodcast today, let's get this started here, guys. We talked about basketball. It's upcoming. The girls' season just recently started last week, and then the boys starting this week. And Coach, you want to give us a little preview of what we can expect through RC Audio Sports with basketball?
Yes, Bobby, the girls basketball team started last week, and we were in full-fledged action this past Tuesday. We posted the scores for 28 5A girls this today on social media, on all our social media. Look for the scores there. And this weekend is a big tournament weekend for the girls basketball teams. South San ISD hosting a tournament, Harlandale ISD hosting a tournament. At South San, of course, South San will be there, South Side will be there, and at Harlandale and McCullum, of course, and Medina Valley will also join the Harlandale ISD tournament. Wynn and Southwest Legacy aren't playing in tournaments; they're playing regular games this Friday, and we'll keep tabs on all of those as well. But and then next week the boys start up, and tournament season starts with them the following week. So we're getting geared up for it.
We're excited for basketball. Basketball is just a different pace for us. It's always been fun. I loved doing basketball when there was audio time. You know, when we were just only doing audio. Obviously, that's a little bit different now that we've got video, which is good. But audio, of course, is always trying to keep up with the play and be detailed as much as possible. So looking forward to a different little pace when it comes to basketball. Haley, I know we did a few basketball games last year together, and if I remember correctly, the last basketball game we did was at Harlandale and Edison Heartbreaker at Alamo Convocation Center.
Yeah, I was literally like a buzzer beater from, at least 2 or 3 steps back from the three-point line in the corner, playoffs, drilled it, tough one. But basketball is really fun for us to cover. For me, basketball is my favorite sport, so I'm a little bit biased there. But I think one of the cool things in all the sports that we get to cover is it's cool to see some of the people that we had the chance to cover in volleyball and football. Now they're switched over to the basketball court, people that we've been saying their names for the last couple of months. So it's exciting to see the multi-sport athletes and, of course, get to watch some nice hoops.
Yeah, and get to visit some really cool gyms as well. So I'm excited about that. Coach, anything else on basketball that you want to touch on going in? Maybe a preview on anything?
Well, we'll get to our previews as we get a little bit closer to the district season. But I can tell our viewers that the 28 5A is just going to be, there's just going to be, again, so much parity in the district. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, just like we saw in volleyball and basketball. Just turn that up a notch a little bit. And I'm just really looking forward to a bunch of great games. We will be bringing you the best that we can find, and we're looking forward to that. But we'll get a little closer to district play before we start giving the previews and some of our guesses and so forth.
Yeah, well, how about, I know it's kind of on the spot here, but let's actually just clarify the teams that are in the 28 5A, if that's all right.
Sure. We'll start with out west. There's Eagle Pass Wynn. Basically it's the same volleyball district, but to rehash that Eagle Pass win, and then coming in from that southwestern border is Medina Valley, and then coming in further Southwest and Southwest Legacy, and then of course Harlandale and McCullum and South Side, and I am missing South San, of course, coming in for Floresville. So again, a bunch of just teams that have a great tradition, legacy for basketball on the boys and the girls side. And just like we saw in volleyball, Bobby and Haley, Floresville moved to 4A, and it was South San that will move from 6A to 5A that fills that void. So we've got some really good teams in 28 5A, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull up the schedule over here to the right, but I couldn't get it on the mysa.com website. But yeah, it's going to be good to know that the same teams are the same that are on the 28 5A volleyball schedule. So just making sure everyone knew that. Coach, you want to move on to volleyball? Last week, we wrapped up our coverage of volleyball as we followed Harlandale into the playoffs in the second round of the playoffs. So, Haley, I'll let you talk about that first game if you want, because that did occur last week also. So and then we can run into to that final game that happened on Thursday over in Dripping Springs for the Indians.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rouse rounded Southwest 3-0. 25-18 first set, 25-13 second set. Southwest tried to battle back in the third set, but ended up falling a little short, 20-25. So their valiant effort came to an end. I know you guys had the chance to be over in Dripping Springs, the Hill Harlandale game. I had the pleasure of actually getting to watch and stream the game myself on the flip side of it. But looked like it was a good effort from the Indians as well, coach. But Liberty Hill, just a really talented team.
Yeah, it was Southwest and Harlandale survived to the area round. They were the only two teams of the 4 playoff qualifiers that survived the by-district round. And of course, that second round is a little bit tougher. And as you said, Southwest met Rouse and had to bowed out of the playoffs there. But Southwest made the playoffs for the first time since 2018 and made the area round for the first time since 2009. So they've got to feel good about that season. Over at Dripping Springs, Bobby and I went that way to stream the Liberty Hill Harlandale game. And Liberty Hill was a bridge too far for the Indians, and 3-0 beat the Indians in 3 quick sets. Gigi Mason was our player of the game, and boy, she was just outstanding, and happy to award her the player of the game. Harlandale made it close in the second set. It was 14-14 at one point in the second set, but the Liberty Hills front row were just too powerful. And I think Bobby made a point there during the game. He said that a lot of the hits, a lot of the attacks that we saw all season long hit the floor from the Harlandale side. I mean, Liberty Hill was picking up and digging and keeping alive. So an outstanding team, Rouse and Liberty Hill both. They deserve to win those area round matches, and we wish them well going forward.
Yeah, it was a good trip to make. Indians, they never gave up. But like you said, Coach, Liberty Hill, just too many great athletes on that team. And exactly that. A lot of the times you would see Channesty go up and throw that very powerful hit, and it would just be returned. So a lot of times that wasn't happening. And then
Channesty and Julissa, Emily, all. I mean, it was just. I mean, that they were just the block and the dig was just. They were just. It was a very good team.
So it'll be interesting to follow up to see how they do as well. So maybe we'll keep an eye on them just to see how well they travel in the playoffs. So that'll take care of the volleyball, and that's going to do it for our coverage of volleyball. And we move on. Football still happening. Last week was a kind of a crazy week in football, if you will, right, Coach? I mean, we talked about going into this Frontier Bowl game, the scenarios, and then some teams that thought that were going to win didn't win, and then you thought going into the Frontier Bowl. All these little other games had very little impact on the way things planned out, but just interesting things. Teams that you thought would win, that you look at on paper, did not win. So let's start off with that, Haley.
Also, so the final week, last week of the regular season, Alamo Heights defeated Sam Houston 57-6. Brackenridge barely snuck out a win against Highlands 44-42. Lanier beat Burbank 36-20. Jefferson defeated Edison 34-14. And McCullum beat Harlandale 27-20. So, like you had said, Bobby and Coach, some shakeups in there to kind of switch around those top 4 seeds, or at least put some teams kind of on the skates headed into playoffs.
I think I think it just pointed to, again, the parity that we saw in that district, and one of the things is Bobby called. Bobby, there was some craziness in that final week, and part of that craziness is that 3 of the teams besides Alamo Heights that are moving on to the playoffs lost their final game of the regular season. So there were some teams in 14-5 that were saying, yeah, you're going to the playoffs, but hold on, we got some business to take care of. And Lanier topped Burbank, Brackenridge topped Highlands, and McCullum topped Harlandale. And so you don't expect to see that in that final week, to have 3 of your playoff bound teams drop that final game of the season, and that certainly added to the craziness. Alamo Heights, of course, still dominating, and dominated last week against Sam Houston 57-6. But we've said it. I've heard you guys say it on all of your broadcasts about how close these games are, and sometimes a team would get in its own way. And but how many games? Look at Edison. How many close games did Edison play? And just how many? There were just so many close games, and the parity in 14-5A was ridiculously even.
Yeah, so Alamo Heights ends up at the top. Burbank ends up in second place. Harlandale takes the 3rd spot, and Highlands takes the 4th spot. So those are the 4 that are moving on into the playoffs. So again, all those were in question prior to this past week. And you want to get into the Frontier Bowl next?
Yeah. Before we do that, the Burbank Bulldogs have won more than 6 games for the first time since 1978. So, again, pointing to some of the craziness or some of the unexpected things that we saw this year. I don't know there were too many people that had Burbank up in the 2nd spot on their bingo card when we started this year. But, Coach Harris over there found Kevin Hernandez, moved him from wide receiver to quarterback. He's only a sophomore, and they assembled a huge offensive and defensive lines, and really did, they did a trick on some of the teams this year. And there they are, sitting right behind Alamo Heights and representing 14-5A-D2 in the second seed. But the first time that the Bulldogs have won more than 6 games since 1978. I think that's 44 years. If my
wow.
So
that I can say is longer than I've been alive.
I was going to say, I saw the throwback pictures they did for practice on socials. All the coaches dressed like they were from the 70s. They dressed in 70s fashion. It was pretty legit. They look like what you wear, Bobby.
Hey, all right.
That looked like
fashionable now.
I'm going to tell you guys, the 70s, it was a great decade. It was, like I said, before you guys were born, but it was a great decade. I'm sorry y'all missed it.
I guess you just had to be there.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it if you want to. If you want me to. I still remember. All right.
I want to jump into Frontier Bowl because, of course, we are just very fortunate that we happen to be from the community, and we happen to cover those schools, and we happen to be able to broadcast that game. And it's such a great tradition. Again, just very fortunate to be with you guys, to be able to see that game. I know it was a tough loss for the Harlandale Indians, but I mean, you got to give credit to McCullum. We talked about how the importance of McCollum playing not necessarily a perfect game, but just less mistakes. And we've talked about how the week before they got it together, they beat Brack, and with that, if they were that same team shows up on Frontier Bowl night, they have a good chance. And guess what? They did. They won. So it was good to see Justin Rodriguez fully grow up throughout the season in front of our eyes and get rewarded with a win. So Indians, you can see. I mean, it's not like anything that we're inside information that we have or anything, but man, the Indians were kind of beat up a little bit going into that game, and they left it all on the field. That's all I can say about that. But McCullough, man, they gave it to the Indians and they broke the streak.
Yeah, and Bobby, you make a good point. I think anybody that watched the game, it was clear that Harlandale was a little hobbled, but health being finishing the season healthy is part of it. It factors in, and I'm sure that in the 59 years that this series has been played, that Harlandale has met a McCullum team that was a little bit hobbled, and some of the previous McCullum wins over Harlandale, again, that that's a factor that plays into it, but. We certainly can't take anything away from the McCollum Cowboys and their effort.
Not at all.
Ian Rook, our player of the game, we saw him really stand out. And some of the kids there at McCollum, Stephen Medina had a great catch. You mentioned Justin Rodriguez, John Longoria, again, doing well as a running back. And Luke Landa had a great return in the Frontier Bowl. So, I mean, it was the McCollum Cowboys breaking a 10-year streak, and you could see the relief and the joy on all of their faces as they did that, and well deserving of a win there for the Frontier Bowl. We talk about mistakes. I went back to check. Only 4 penalties. Each team had 4 penalties apiece. They were penalized for 21 yards, equally 21 yards. Both teams were penalized for. So you talk about diminishing your mistakes. I think it came down to for as far as keys to the game. Besides being hobbled just a little bit, Harlandale lost the ball twice, lost 2 fumbles, and McCullum did not turn the ball over at all. One of those fumbles. For Harlandale, it was right after a blocked punt, short field, about the 35 yard line, and they returned the ball right away. So they missed an opportunity at scoring with a short field. And then McCullum's defense stiffened up early in the game. You remember a 1st and 11 in the red zone, Harlandale was, and they weren't able to convert on that. And so, I mean, it's a ball game. It's 48 minutes, and McCullum deserving of a win, and we congratulate the McCollum Cowboys.
Yeah, and Haley, you had possibly the best seat in the house on the sidelines. Tell us about your experience on the sidelines. I've not even been able to experience a sideline Frontier Bowl game, so please tell us.
It was really fun. It was, I played sports growing up a lot, but I didn't play football, surprise. And so I've never really experienced that Friday night sort of atmosphere or sort of environment. So it was really cool to be down there. I think the couple of things I noticed was I got the chance to kind of go to both sidelines. I spent the first half of the game mostly on the McCollum sideline. Second half of the game, I spent the majority of it on the Harlandale sideline, but towards the end, I ended up coming back around to the McCollum sideline as things kind of, as the end of the game started approaching, kind of was starting to kind of become clear who was going to win, and the energy was very different on each sideline. It's something I noticed. Not that Harlandale wasn't pumped up or anything like that, but it was very tense on their sideline. The fans were really loud on both sides. It wasn't different in that regard. The boys were kind of tense over there when came over to the McCollum side. They seemed a lot more confident. So that was something that was kind of cool to observe in the moment. And that McCollum, like you had said, Bobby, like on paper, probably wasn't predicted to win that game, and most folks might have not predicted them to win that game. But they were extremely confident, communicative down on the sidelines, and it was really cool to be able to capture some of the different plays, like standing next to Coach Klon and stuff like that. So very, very cool experience. And again, props to McCollum. They brought it on the field, but again, they were very confident on the sidelines. It was very apparent to me.
Bobby, if I may, Haley was, as you said, she was on the sideline and she got some great shots and some great angles, and she was doing our live social media posting on all of our platforms. And golly, Haley, I came back on Sunday to see some of that, and I just couldn't stop rewatching it. You just did such a great job. That was you did a great job of journaling that game for our followers on social media. Congratulations to you. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's cool. We hope, and I hope that, some of the athletes we cover are able to see some of that stuff and, use it for recruiting or, any of the stuff they do. Of course, they have huddle and all that stuff, but hopefully some of the stuff we do and we're able to do kind of live in-game tweets, especially like that with videos. Hopefully some of our athletes are able to repurpose some of that for greater good at recruiting, or even just to hype themselves up a little bit. So
memories, just memories down the line, down the line. It just did a great job. I enjoyed your posts and your clips just so much.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it was good to have that kind of unique perspective. Usually we're covering the game on our YouTube channel, but in this case, we knew this beginning of the year last year, beginning of the year this year, that was not going to be a game that was going to be part of our RC Audio sports stream, because it was the relationship between KCWX and Harlandale ISD. That deal had been brokered beyond our control. So the cool thing is they included us in on that. So they allowed us to be on that. So thank you to Harlandale ISD and for making that happen, and thank you for KCWX for putting that on TV and letting the entire city see what a great community that we serve. So I'm super grateful for that
Bobby,
experience.
and we be remiss not to mention Hector Ledesma. What a great job he does
Yes,
with play-by-play. And
indeed. Yeah,
what a pleasure
Hector.
it is to be
Hector,
alongside him.
of course, also the PA announcer for Harlandale ISD, who handles that KCWX role. So we appreciate Hector very much on that. So anything else, guys, on that you guys want to get into and recognize before we get into some shout outs?
Well, just I wanted to mention Haley. I really wanted that. She's my shout out this for this episode, and beyond that, I think we've covered the friendship real well.
Yeah, how about you, Haley?
No, I don't got anything. I was just gonna ask Coach for a preview of our football playoff teams and what to expect headed into the end of this week.
And of course, we've got 4 teams headed to the playoffs. It's Alamo Heights at Tybee. Imagine a district where Tybee is the 4th seed. You know how tough that 13-5A D2 district is. They're playing at Orem Stadium. They're at Alamo Heights on Friday. Burbank hosts Lockhart at Alamo Stadium Friday night. And Harlandale travels on to Rutledge Stadium at the Judson campus to play San Antonio Veterans Memorial. And finally, Highlands, our 28-5A 4th seed, will play Liberty Hill, the champion of that district, as well. At the time that we were at the time that we made our schedule out, I don't think that the location had been determined or had been publicized. So we're going to say TBA for now. Watch our social media. We'll tell you where that game is going to be played.
All right. Well, then that should conclude it. And how could I miss the next important thing for football? I get carried away sometimes we talk about Frontier Bowl. But yeah, so that'll do it for episode 10, season 2. Thank you for joining us, Coach Villafranca. I'll see you Friday. Haley, will we see you Friday?
I will be in Waco Friday.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I'm going to my first real football game's not the right way to phrase it. I'm going to my first NCAA Division I football game. I'm going to the Baylor game.
Try not to diss Trinity Tigers, but that's just a different level, right? Yeah.
I'm not dissing them, but it's a little different. But hey, my shout out will go to the Trinity Tigers because they are one of the last 5 undefeated Texas collegiate football teams. They haven't won a game all year. So I guess I shouldn't be saying that they aren't real football, maybe.
They just Baylor just has a bigger stadium.
Yeah, I've never been to like a stadium atmosphere ever in my whole life, so I'm really
D1 football is just different,
Yeah.
you can't get around that. It's just
Yeah.
it's just a different thing, So yeah, they have fun with that. Watch out for those Baylor Bears. Who are they playing?
They're playing someone ranked. I was also thinking we were thinking about going to the basketball game on Friday because men, like you said, coach, basketball kind of season's getting in full swing now. I just don't know if we're going to be able to get tickets. Baylor plays Kansas State, so it should be a decent game.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
So
All right, well, have fun report and send us back clips.
maybe they'll let me broadcast the Baylor game, RC Audio Sports Stream.
There you go.
What can they say?
Take your media credentials. You'll be
Yeah. They'll be like, "Who's this girl?"
good. All right, guys. We'll talk again soon. Have a good one.